Okay, it is time for another... What a goofy intro. Jefferson story time. Let's get this going. My next victim, her name is Pam, and she lives in El Dorado, Kansas. The three things that Pam gave me for a story, they are, number one, roller skates. Number two, a Volkswagen Beetle. And then number three, Lake Afton. Now, I live in Kansas, and Lake Afton is it's a little lake not too far from where I live, okay? So, obviously, Pam has some attachment to Lake Afton. Or maybe she just randomly chose it, and that's okay too. So Pam in El Dorado, Kansas, here is your Jefferson story time. Let's get going. Ebenezer Beezer was a quirky old man who had an even quirkier little girl. The two lived together in a quirky old house with an anteater and a pet squirrel. The girl's name was Afton, and she had a zest for life, but she was not your typical thrill seeker. She needed more than playground games. Playing with a ball was oh so lame. It seemed she was much too eager. So she put on her skates and rolled up to her father and told him her big grand plan. Ebenezer's eyes were as big as the sky, and he proudly replied, "Right on, man!" Her first big challenge was jumping over the house with nothing but her roller skates. She built a ramp outside that was one giant slide, not even once worrying about a deathly fate. Ebenezer watched with pride as his daughter did glide down the ramp with increasing speed. And she soared over the house as she laughed with glee. You would think that was the thrill she would need. "That was amazing! What else can you do?" Ebenezer asked as she thought of something new. She looked around and spotted the car and then looked at the water. He smiled and tossed her the keys and shouted, "That's my daughter!" It took her a full day to make the ramp fairly sound, and that next evening she was ready to leave the ground. Her dad watched with confidence. Her squirrel was on pins and needles, and the two witnessed the stunt with a Volkswagen Beetle. She soared over the water without getting a droplet wet. She heard the clapping and chirping from her father and pet. She had so much adrenaline racing, she needed the ultimate test. Ebenezer leaned in and excitedly asked, "What's next?" She looked out over the water at the big yellow moon in the sky, and her old father grinned with a twinkle in his eye. "Absolutely, why not?" he proclaimed with a crazy look on his face. "After all, it's just a moon, and it's only in outer space." So she came up with a rocket powered by the lawnmower's engine, and he found a spacesuit lying next to a tank of oxygen. He counted down from 10, and when he finally reached 1, he'd never experienced a moment with her that was this much fun. And I won't bore you with details on how she left the atmosphere, using a homemade rocket made up of gadgets and gears. Soon she was out of sight, and Ebenezer got out his telescope, and he watched her through the lens as he held his breath with hope. Then finally he jumped up and down and cheered with all his might. His daughter flew over the moon. It was such an amazing sight. "Oh," he said as he squinted, "she is still going far." His eyes lit up and he turned to the squirrel. "She's going to try for Mars." Many years later, they tore down the house and the pond became a lake. and they named it after Ebenezer's daughter. She was a legend, for goodness sake. And perhaps someday she will return with lots of stories to share. That is, if she didn't run out of this thing we boring people like to call air. The end. Alrighty, I hope Pam in El Dorado, I hope you enjoyed that quirky story. And I wonder if it's anything close to what you thought I would come up with. But you did throw 3 things at my imagination, and I think I came up with a fun story. It was a lot of fun, and I couldn't wait for you to hear it. And I hope everybody else watching enjoyed it as well. And if you would like to put in a submission for a story, if you're on YouTube, just in the comments, or even on Facebook, in the comments, give me your first name, your city and state, or your city and country, and give me 3 things. Now, 3 things that are not together. You can't have like 3 items of food or 3 cars and a truck, you know, stuff like that. Give me 3 different things, and using my imagination, I will come up with a fun children's story with illustrations. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to this channel on YouTube, please do. That way you'll just get notified when I have my next video. And I do have at least 2 more stories in the works right now. So after that, I'll be ready for some more submissions. So subscribe to the channel. If you can, like this video. That'll get it out in the what is it, the World Wide Web, and maybe people will see maybe people will see the suggested video and become a Jefferson Storytime fan and participant. That's the fun thing. So, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.